As a teenager, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's family was struggling so badly that they were evicted from their apartment in Hawaii. Not long afterwards, Johnson witnessed something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. His mother stepped out of her car on a busy highway and began walking towards oncoming traffic. Luckily, Dwayne sprinted after her and pulled her back just before she was hit. Years later, he revealed that the incident was a suicide attempt brought on by their dire situation, saying he never forgot how powerless he felt in that moment. In 2008, 39-year-old Stefan Miller was helping his cousin, Hollywood animal trainer Randy Miller, film a promo video with their 700-pound grizzly bear named Rocky, the same bear that starred alongside Will Ferrell in Semi-Pro that same year. But in an instant, the trained bear turned deadly. Without warning, Rocky suddenly lunged and bit deep into Stefan's neck, crushing his spine and severing an artery. He bled out within minutes as horrified crew members looked on. The bear, raised in captivity and for years considered to be safe, proved that even the most well-trained predator can revert back to its instincts in a heartbeat. In 2015, doctors were baffled when a healthy 5-year-old boy's sodium levels skyrocketed inside a New York hospital, setting off a mystery that would expose a horror no one saw coming. For years, 26-year-old Lacey Spears told friends and followers that her son Garnett was chronically ill, documenting his mysterious sickness online to garner sympathy. But when the 5-year-old was hospitalized in New York, doctors found his sodium levels had mysteriously spiked to near-fatal levels, 182 milliequivalents per liter, so abnormally high that staff initially thought it was a lab error. Surveillance footage later showed Lacey taking her son into a private room and secretly administering large amounts of salt through his feeding tube. Hours later, Garnett suffered massive brain swelling and passed away. Investigators later found feeding bags in her apartment coated with salt residue, along with Google searches for dangers of high sodium in children. Spears was eventually sentenced to 20 years to life in prison, her case becoming a chilling example of Munchausen syndrome by proxy taken to the extreme. Moments before tragedy, passenger Dave Halley snapped a photo of his wife Kim and their 4-year-old daughter Megan, smiling from their seats on Malaysian Airlines flight MH17, unaware it would be their final picture. Minutes after takeoff, the plane was struck by a Russian missile at 33,000 feet, exploding mid-air and scattering wreckage and bodies across miles of Ukrainian farmland. Every one of the 298 passengers and crew was killed instantly. Some of their belongings and passports later found among the debris of what investigators called one of the most awful war crimes in aviation history. Yet Russia continues to deny involvement to this day, still refusing to extradite those responsible or pay any reparations for the awful tragedy. A Colorado man named Dwayne Johnson developed a rare and irreversible lung condition known as popcorn lung after years of eating and inhaling the buttery fumes from multiple bags of microwave popcorn every day. The artificial butter flavoring contained diacetyl, a toxic chemical that can scar and destroy airways over time. In 2012, a jury awarded him $7.2 million after ruling that the popcorn maker failed to warn consumers of the dangers. Doctors said his lungs had deteriorated so badly that they resembled those of an industrial worker exposed to chemical vapors for years, all because of his daily snack habit. In October of 2003, a Las Vegas audience watched in horror as Roy Horn of the famed duo Siegfried and Roy was mauled on stage by his own 600-pound white tiger, Montecore. What began as a dazzling birthday performance suddenly turned grim when the animal clamped its jaws around Roy's neck and dragged him off stage, crushing his windpipe and leaving him moments from death. He miraculously survived, but the attack left him partially paralyzed, ending the duo's legendary Vegas run after more than a decade at the Mirage. Roy later claimed he had felt faint during the act and that the tiger was simply trying to protect him, but many believe it was a brutal reminder that even a lifetime of training can't tame a predator's instincts. Singer and model Taylor Moll lives with one of the rarest genetic conditions on Earth, chimeism. While still in the womb, she absorbed her fraternal twin, and today her body carries 2 sets of DNA, her own and that of her lost sibling. The most striking evidence runs straight down her torso, where a sharp line divides 2 different skin tones, one coded by her DNA, the other by her twins. Doctors say she effectively lives with 2 immune systems, making her more prone to health insensitivities and turning her body into a living reminder of the sibling who never survived. In 2007, NASA astronaut Lisa Nowak made headlines for one of the strangest scandals in space history. Obsessed with her ex-boyfriend's new partner, Lisa drove 900 miles from Houston to Orlando in a single stretch, allegedly wearing adult diapers so she wouldn't have to stop for the bathroom. In her car, police found a BB gun, a knife, pepper spray, rubber tubing, and trash bags, tools suggesting a plan to kidnap. She ambushed Colleen Shipman in an airport parking lot, spraying her with mace before being arrested. Once a respected astronaut who had flown on the space shuttle Discovery. Nowak became infamous as the first NASA astronaut ever fired after the bizarre meltdown. In 2009, she managed to avoid jail time, receiving a year of probation and community service. This disturbing sign was recently put up at a cemetery in Tampa Bay. In January of 2004, Texas math teacher Alejandro Navarro checked into the ER with serious heart and kidney problems, knowing he might not make it out. But instead of resting, he pulled out his laptop and started grading papers, determined to finish his students' work even as doctors prepared him for critical care. The next day, Navarro tragically passed away, and the photo his daughter shared of him bent over his computer in the hospital went viral. When MLK's grandmother died when he was 12 years old, he blamed himself and tried to take his own life. King would end up suffering from severe bouts of depression throughout his life, even though he was never officially diagnosed. MLK died when he was only 39 years old, but an autopsy found that he had the heart of a 60-year-old, likely due to stress. After King was killed in 1968, his funeral was held at Morehouse College in Atlanta. A small group of students were chosen to be ushers for his funeral, and one of them was Samuel L. Jackson. King's own family publicly supported James Earl Ray's efforts for a retrial. They didn't think he actually assassinated MLK and fully believed it was the US government instead. King's mother Alberta was also killed 6 years after her son was assassinated. She was fatally shot by a 23-year-old black man who thought that black civil rights activists and ministers were evil. The man yelled, "You are serving a false god," and shot Alberta with 2 handguns while she was playing on an organ during a church service in Atlanta. Rampage Jackson has said that his son Raja was never the same after his mother was murdered, a little-known tragedy in their family history. The details of her death aren't publicly known, but this revelation resurfaced after Raja's violent outburst at the Knox Pro Wrestling event, where he struck wrestler Psycho Stu with more than 20 unanswered blows, leaving the man critically injured. Rampage condemned the attack, but also pointed to the loss of Raja's mother as a turning point in his life, which may begin to explain the troubled path that led to this shocking incident. This is what a bear with rabies looks like. The good news is, the bear will most likely kill you before the rabies becomes an issue. In 2012, 2 young sisters from Tacoma, Washington suffered such severe sunburns during a school field day that they had to be rushed to the hospital. Shockingly, the burns could have easily been prevented, but the girls weren't allowed to use sunscreen because school policy required a doctor's note, treating it like a controlled drug. The incident caused outrage, and years later, Washington finally passed a law allowing students to carry sunscreen at school without medical permission. In 2023, longtime Mr. Beast co-star Tyson realized he was actually a woman and started hormone therapy, a move that coincided with the collapse of his marriage and leaving behind his young son and wife. Just a year later, Tyson's life spiraled further when allegations surfaced that he had exchanged inappropriate messages with someone as young as 13, accusations that spread across the internet like wildfire. He stepped away from the Mr. Beast brand, apologized publicly, and stepped away from social media as headlines branded him as a predator. Mr. Beast himself also distanced from his former friend and launched an independent investigation. By late 2024, a law firm concluded the claims were baseless, but Tyson's reputation was already destroyed. He's now remembered much less for a decade of YouTube success with Mr. Beast, and more for transition controversy, family upheaval, and a fake scandal that essentially ended his career. As of now, there's no confirmed word that Tyson will be rejoining Mr. Beast anytime soon. While 33-year-old actress Carol Lombard was on a war bond tour in 1942, she won a coin toss that determined she and her group would return home by plane instead of by train. Tragically, their flight would end up crashing into a mountain near Las Vegas, killing all 22 passengers on board, including 15 U.S. Army soldiers. 28-year-old Caitlin Jensen's life was changed forever after just a routine visit to the chiropractor. She went to have her neck adjusted for stiffness, during which 4 arteries in Caitlin's neck were accidentally dissected, resulting in a horrible stroke. She was reportedly without a pulse for 10 minutes until she could be revived by doctors. Caitlin was left with nearly full body paralysis, only capable of blinking her eyes and moving her left thumb.